Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question is, can I analyze the case of Auriol Grey? Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I will put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the incident, then offer my analysis. Auriol Grey was born sometime around 1974 in King's Lynn, Norfolk, England. This is about 2 hours and 20 minutes north of London. She was from a wealthy family. Her father, Thomas, was an architect and cartographer. Her mother, Verna, was described as a person who played the card game bridge, which I guess meant that she had a lot of free time due to wealth. Auriol had one sister. The family lived in an apartment located in a wing of a 17th century mansion called Hunstanton Hall. Auriol suffered from cerebral palsy since birth and had epileptic seizures. Part of the left hemisphere of her brain was surgically removed in order to control the seizures. She had weakness on the right side of her body, walked with a limp, and wore a leg brace. Auriol had difficulty with her eyesight. The right half of her visual field in each eye had been lost due to the surgery. She also had cognitive impairment. Auriol went to a private convent school before attending college. At one point, she was romantically involved with a postal worker. After college, Auriol visited the mansion on occasion, but never moved back. Instead, she moved to the town of Huntingdon, Cambridgeshire. She lived in a ground floor apartment operated by a charitable organization which gave assistance to people with disabilities. Auriol made her living through receiving state benefits. Estranged from her family, life in Huntingdon was lonely for Auriol. Disagreements with various people in the community were not uncommon. She was socially awkward and frequently bullied by boys riding scooters who told her to get off the sidewalk. Auriol spent her time painting and birdwatching. Now moving to the timeline of the incident. On October 20, 2020, at about 2:20 p.m., 46-year-old Auriol Grey was walking on the sidewalk next to Nursery Road in Huntingdon. Her destination was a physician's office where she was going to pick up prescription medication. As Auriol was walking, a 77-year-old woman named Celia Ward was riding her bicycle on the same sidewalk, but headed in the opposite direction. Pedestrians, of course, had the right to use the sidewalk, but it is not clear if it was legal to ride a bicycle there. So Auriol had the right to be there, but Celia may not have. This is an area of intense debate that was never settled in later court proceedings. The sidewalk was 7.8 feet wide, and the road next to it had a speed limit of 30 miles per hour. Celia was traveling in the same direction as the traffic. As Celia approached her, Auriol waved her left arm using motions that have been described as hostile gesticulations. Auriol did this as she continued to walk towards Celia. At the same time, Auriol yelled, quote, "Get off the blanking pavement," unquote. In Britain, the term pavement means sidewalk. The arm movements and the verbal command were directed at Celia. As Celia reached Auriol, she lost her balance, fell off her bicycle, and landed in the roadway. This placed her in the path of a Volkswagen Passat operated by a woman named Carla Money. Carla had no chance to avoid a collision. Her vehicle slammed into Celia, causing catastrophic injuries. Medical staff from a nearby physician's office, as well as paramedics, rendered aid to Celia, but she was pronounced dead at the scene. Before anyone arrived to help, Auriol left the scene. She ended up at a store where she purchased groceries. The incident was captured on video surveillance, and the police were able to identify Auriol. They spoke to her about the incident. She explained to them that Celia was traveling toward her quickly. Auriol said that she flinched out with her left arm to protect herself, but did not remember what she said. When the police showed her the surveillance video, which included audio, Auriol said she could not explain why she had spoken in that way. Despite this, she stayed with her story that she acted in self-defense. During this interview, Auriol admitted that she touched Celia with her fingers. Auriol was charged with manslaughter. The Crown Prosecution Service argued that the movement of her hand was an unlawful act and a hostile act. Whether she actually came into contact with Celia or not, her actions caused Celia to take evasive action. The command that Auriol shouted, "Get off the blanking pavement," revealed her mindset of hostility toward people who ride bicycles on sidewalks. Celia was traveling at about 4.7 miles per hour, and the sidewalk was 7.8 feet wide. The two women should have been able to pass each other without incident. The Crown argued that Auriol deliberately obstructed Celia's path. Her behavior caused Celia to fall off her bicycle into the road, which resulted in her death. Auriol went to trial. Her defense was based on the theory that Celia's death was an accident or caused by self-defense. The jury could not reach a verdict. A mistrial was declared. Auriol went to trial again and, on February 24, 2023, was convicted of manslaughter. On March 2 of that year, she was sentenced to 3 years in prison. Auriol tried to get released from prison as she appealed her conviction, but the court ruled that, quote, there was no arguable grounds of appeal against conviction, unquote. On March 19, 2024, over a year after being sentenced to prison, Auriol once again asked to be released to file an appeal. This time she was successful and was released from prison. On May 8, 2024, the court ruled in Auriol's favor. Her conviction for manslaughter was overturned. The Crown asked to retry Auriol for manslaughter, but they were denied. Now moving to my analysis. The case of Auriol Grey is highly controversial and stirs up some of the anger between pedestrians and cyclists. Auriol has many supporters who agreed with the court that she was not guilty. They argued that the charges should have never been filed. The Crown, of course, disagrees. They believe that Auriol committed a common assault, which led to the death of Celia. This means she was guilty of manslaughter. There is no question that Auriol's behavior contributed to Celia's death. The question is, did it rise to the level of manslaughter? Before weighing the evidence in this case, I want to spend a moment talking about the law that was applied. The Crown argued that Auriol was guilty of manslaughter. Here's the definition of this offense. A person commits manslaughter if he or she does an unlawful act that a sane and reasonable person would realize would inevitably expose another person to the risk of some harm, and that other person dies as a result. The unlawful act referred to in the definition is sometimes called a base offense. This offense is necessary to be found guilty. Without a base offense, there is no manslaughter. There were two base offenses available in this case. If Auriol made physical contact with Celia, then battery would have been the base offense. If Auriol intentionally or recklessly caused Celia to apprehend immediate unlawful violence, then common assault would be the base offense. Put another way, if Auriol put Celia in fear for her safety. The Crown wasn't really focused on battery. Instead, they believed that common assault was the base offense that Auriol committed. Celia was worried that Auriol was going to strike her. With all this in mind, let's take a look at the evidence both for and against the idea that Auriol was guilty of manslaughter. Starting with the inculpatory factors. From the surveillance video, it seems clear that Auriol's arm movements and or shouting caused Celia to lose her balance. In addition, Auriol admitted that she made physical contact with Celia. There was plenty of room on the sidewalk. Auriol did not even need to move over. The tragedy could have been avoided if she simply did nothing. All she had to do was mind her own business. If Auriol could see Celia coming toward her, then it stands to reason she could also see the Volkswagen approaching. She knew that if Celia moved into the roadway, she would be struck by the Volkswagen. After the fatal collision, Auriol left the scene, which points to a lack of empathy and maybe even to hostility toward Celia. Moving to the exculpatory factors, Celia may not have had a legal right to be riding a bicycle on the sidewalk. Either way, it was her responsibility to navigate around pedestrians. No pedestrian was legally obligated to move out of her way. Even though Celia approached Auriol at under 5 miles per hour, Auriol may have been concerned about Celia running into her with the bicycle. If this is true, she had a right to wave her arm and to issue a verbal warning, even one containing an expletive. Maybe she was just trying to protect herself. Even if Auriol's behavior did not qualify as self-defense, did she actually commit the unlawful act of common assault? If the incident did not involve a fatality, would Auriol have been charged with common assault, or was she penalized simply because the outcome was tragic? Did Auriol recognize the risk that Celia would be afraid for her safety based on the arm waving and the yelling, fall into the road, and be struck by a vehicle? Celia could have stopped her bicycle instead of moving to the edge of the sidewalk. Celia had a responsibility to be aware of her surroundings and take reasonable precautions. Based on the small amount of space between Auriol and the edge of the sidewalk, it's possible that Celia would have lost her balance and fallen into the road even if Auriol had done nothing. Maybe she lost her balance because she was slowing down to pass, which she would have done anyway. As far as Auriol leaving the scene of the fatality, she said that she could hear police on the way in the distance as she departed. She knew that Celia was going to receive help soon. When considering all the evidence in this case, do I think that Auriol Grey was guilty of manslaughter? This is a challenging case, which is highly polarizing. There are many people on both sides of the argument who have strong feelings. As I mentioned, I think a lot of this is motivated from the argument between pedestrians and cyclists. There is a long-standing feud that exists there in some areas. In my opinion, Auriol was guilty in reality, but I am not convinced beyond a reasonable doubt. The reason I believe she was guilty in reality is based on the idea that she could see both Celia and the Volkswagen approaching her, and her actions directed Celia into the path of the Volkswagen. The reasonable doubt comes in because I'm not confident her behavior qualified as a common assault. I don't believe that Celia was actually afraid of getting struck. Rather, she tried to get around Auriol and lost her balance. Now moving to my final thoughts. This case is a tragedy all around. Any act of aggression, no matter how minor, can be dangerous. Usually, a fatality would not be expected, but one never knows. At the very least, Auriol is morally responsible for causing Celia's death and will have to live with that for the rest of her life. She was upset about people riding bicycles on the sidewalk, but should not have jeopardized a person's life to express her disappointment and frustration. There's a sense that because she had been told to get off the sidewalk, she was now taking that anger and projecting it. Auriol was a person who was walking around angry and perhaps looking for trouble. She knew when to walk on the sidewalk, but she did not know when to walk away. Those are my thoughts on the case of Auriol Grey. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comment section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be informative. Thanks for watching.